Leopardi, Shakespeare, two troubadours, Donne, Sidney, then Spencer, Milton, Chaucer, and Yeats, and Mèng Hàorán, Roche, Blake, Coleridge, Dante, Baudelaire, and Stork and other authors, Storke dagli autori, poetry after the classics. Dajahao, merhaban al-jamir. Hi everyone. 我今天来给你们介绍一首我以谱曲而翻译成阿拉伯语和英语的文言文诗。اليوم أقدم لكم قصيدة باللغة الصينية الكلاسيكية التي لحنت وترجمت إلى الإنجليزية والعربية. Today I introduce you to a classical Chinese poem I have translated into Arabic and English. 我来先唱原版，再唱许多译文。أغني أولا الأصلية وثم التراجم الكثيرات. I sing the original first and then the many translations. And never was a more reductive intro ever spoken. Because this is going to be a very long video split into these 9 parts, which goes over all of my interactions with this poem and all of the many, many translations that I and others have made of it. There's even an AI translation, believe it or not. We'll get to that. And of course, there's no way I would do this in 3 languages, Chinese, English, and Arabic. I know that's just impossible. But even doing it bilingual would be way too long of a video. So we are going to do this English only and with captions only on this intro and on the parts where I sing. So let's get the parts back on screen. So we've got the 2 sum-ups, part 4 and part 9. So those are the only parts of this video which have captions. Besides this, there's actually a little bit in the first part, the reaction to the old video, which is also captioned because it's my performance of the oldest translations. So if you don't speak English, or if you just want to skip to the singing, you've got these 2 time codes, and then maybe you can find your way to the earliest performance. But then again, those 2 are performed again in better versions in part 4, so maybe don't fret about that. But with all that out of the way, without further ado, let's get into this long video. One more thing though, the background is going to change between parts because I am trying to record this at any time where I have free time, and today is a Saturday and I've got the whole day off. So I have some time from my other blog and YouTube stuff, which I can devote to this recording. And I am in karate. I cannot do the whole video, not only because it would take too long, but because I don't have my guitar, which I left in Pisa, which is where I study. And which is where the other background will come in. So this intro is shot here. I'm probably going to record a few other parts, but then at least the reaction to the old video and the 2 sum-ups are going to be recorded in Pisa. So that's why the background changes. And with that out of the way, let's get into part 1. Okay, so here we are in Pisa, as announced. And it is time for us to watch and react to the original video I made about the poem that this video is dealing with. So let us start it up. Hi everyone. Hi. Today I'm going to tell you a little story. Go ahead. Once upon a time, at the beginning of 2013, there was a younger me browsing random Wikipedia pages, as I do from time to time in my spare time. And I kind of already do, I think. I can't really remember the last time that I did it, but I think it still happens sometimes. I don't know. Anyway, it definitely was happening at the beginning of 2013. So, correct this far. Somehow I ended up on the Wikipedia page about Gan Chinese and bumped. And this is also correct, although this video is actually being less specific than I thought, because my memory at the time was that I found this poem on this Gan Chinese Wikipedia page while I was preparing exams, which means February essentially. And from the Firefox sessions that I saved to my hard disk back in the day, this seems to not be the case, because the first appearance of the poem itself is from early March. So the video is not incorrect, but it's less specific than the memory is. At least so far. It is soon going to go into incorrect territory, but let's keep watching. Into this Chinese poem from the Tang Dynasty. The poem is called Chūn Xiǎo, that means spring dawn, and it's written by the poet Mèng Hàorán, who lived in 691 to 740 AD. So that was quite a few centuries ago. Indeed. I'm not gonna check that against Wikipedia. I presume that I memorized it correctly, or that I was looking at it on the computer screen as I recorded this part of the video. If you don't trust that, or if you know better, you can check it if necessary and then comment. Let's hear this poem, shall we? 春眠不觉晓，处处闻啼鸟。夜来风雨声，花落知多少。 Yep, that's it. I'm kind of hearing those third tones as second tones, so maybe watch that. Although native Chinese speakers, please comment on this. Do those third tones actually sound like second tones to you, or is it just me not hearing the slight dip? Because my native language doesn't have tones, so I'm not very well tuned to those. Okay, of course, it didn't quite sound like that when it was written, did it? I mean, indeed this was modern standard Mandarin pronunciation. The characters are the same, but back then they were pronounced in a quite different way. Indeed, I did try to reconstruct how, more or less, how they would have sounded back then. Linguists have reconstructed the phonemes of Middle Chinese, though different authors reconstruct phonemes differently. So, do I still do this thing where I put my hand to my forehead at random times? I think I still do. So what I did was get the phonemes off of the Wiktionary. So character by character, I looked the characters up in the Wiktionary and copied the pronunciation in the reconstructed Zhengzhang Shenfang system. I chose one. What a boring task this must have been, although it is only 20 characters, so maybe not that boring. I chose this one because I'm lazy and I just selected the one which stuck out in the Wiktionary. I don't know why they chose. Understandable, so essentially the choice is not yours, it's Wiktionary's. To make this one stick out, you know, before you expand the list of the pronunciation stuff, you see only that. So I took that. Yeah. It's as valid as any other reconstruction. Tones. Interesting cut there. What happened to the audio in that cut? It's not the kind of sharp cuts that I do now. I either fudged it up voluntarily, or older iMovie did that on its own. I don't think so though, because unless all my 2017 videos were recorded without mistakes, which I find somewhat implausible, except this one of course, but yeah, I don't know. because the audio had like a dip in volume. It went with its volume. That's weird. That's not something that happens in the videos that I do nowadays. Weird. Let's go on. Are a completely different matter, because tones, we know there were 4 tones in early Middle Chinese that are known as ping, or level, shang, or rising, qu, or departing, and ru, or entering. So there's 4 classes of tones. We have absolutely no idea what the tones sounded like back then, because they evolved in such... What is that background noise? Also, I think I asked a question about this tone thing on Quora at some point. I will look it up eventually, and if I find something, I'll put it in the description. Although, since it's probably a 2017 thing, so it's gonna take forever to find. Maybe I will actually find it in the context of making, when I get to it, the series A Lifetime of Translations. We'll see, because but actually maybe Quora actually lets you look for your own questions from a specific year, so maybe that can speed up the process. I don't know. I'll see what I can do, and then put things in the description if I find anything. Wildly varying ways in modern Chinese dialects. It is literally impossible to reconstruct what they were back then. Yeah, I was mentioning this Quora question because I think I have gotten an answer that said the names of the tone classes were supposed to describe the contours. So, with ping and shang, that seems pretty plausible, but what the hell is departing, qu, supposed to mean, and also entering? But I'll get back to that later in the video, because I touch on that in the video itself. We have no precise description of those tones, of the pitch contours of those tones back then. We have the names. So what I did was invent some understandable contours. So what I did was, well, ping means level, so we make it level. We make it a straight note, like the first tone of modern Mandarin. Rising, yeah, well, so it must be rising, like the second tone of Mandarin or something like that. Then I have departing. What the hell does that mean? I don't know, but we have level, we have rising, why not make it falling? Yeah, makes sense. And then the entering tone is just an abruptly cut tone, so it's a beep, very short thing, which is immediately cut off by the unreleased stop after the vowel. Yeah, so by the way, the qu tone, the departing tone in Mandarin, is actually the falling and rising tone, the third tone, because, no, is that correct? No, actually, no. The tones in Mandarin are now called yin ping, yang ping, shang, and qu. So qu is actually the falling one, but shang is the dipping one, and the two pings, one is actually level, the yin ping, and the yang ping is actually rising. So that happened in the evolution of tones. By contrast, like in Min, I think in Min the tones are like Yin Ping is the high level one. Then you've got Yin Shang, which is a falling tone. Tone number 2, a high falling tone. Although maybe I'm mixing up the order. No, that is correct. What is number 3? Let me look this up actually. Okay, so Yin Ping is it's the high level one. Then you've got Yang Ping, yin shang, which is, as I was saying, the falling one, the high falling one. And then there's yin qu, which is indeed what I thought it was, the low falling one. And yin ru is the low low checked one, if you will, which really in modern dialects, the difference between ru tones, so checked tones or entering tones, and other tones is not much in the contours themselves, but rather in the also in the contours. It depends on how many tones you have, but for example, in Mèng Hàorán I can see the contours here, and the two entering tones are this almost the same contour as two of the other tones, but what differentiates them is actually the rules of tone sandhi, which is how tones change when they are followed by other tones. In Mèng Hàorán they are especially complicated. There's a whole diagram with all kinds of arrows that you can find on Wikipedia. So this is the main difference. Yeah, and then like if you look at Cantonese, you can just treat the entering tones as level tones, because they really don't have any difference, because there's no tone sandhi in Cantonese that I know of. So the contours are the same as level tones, and the sandhi doesn't exist. So yeah, so yin ru is the same contour as the yin qu, and the difference is not much in the contour, but in the sandhi rules and in the consonants that end the syllables, which are the unreleased plosives. So when I listed the tones of Mandarin, there was no ru. That's because Mandarin lost those consonants, and therefore also lost the ru tones, which were reassigned to other categories. I don't know if there's any rules that have been described for this reassignment, or if it just seems to be completely random. But anyways, then we have yang ping, which happens to be a rising tone here. Then there would be yang shang, but in most Mèng Hàorán dialects and also in the standard Hokkien, this has actually merged, I think, with the rising tone, or either with the rising tone or with the low level tone, which is the next one. So the yang qu, which is low level, and then you've got the yang ru, the light entering tone, which is a higher tone than the other entering tone. So that's what happened in Mèng Hàorán. In Mandarin, the ping tones remain distinct. So you've got yin ping and yang ping, which are the first and second tones, so level and rising. Then you've got the shang tone, which is the merger of the two shang tones of late Middle Chinese. Then the chu tone went through the same merger process, and the ru tone was just lost and reassigned to the other categories. Cantonese, what did Cantonese do with its tones? Like, I know there's 6 tones in Cantonese, plus, if you want, the 3 entering tones, so technically 9, if you will. But then the entering tones really only differ from the level tones by the final consonant of the syllable. So not really much of a point in distinguishing them. But so, by the way, 3 entering tones means that there was a split. I think there were no mergers in the other tones, because six non-entering tones in Cantonese and in early Middle Chinese. Late Middle Chinese. So the tones are typically ordered with high level being number 1. Then there's high rising, there's mid level, there's low falling, there's low rising, and there's low level. So assuming that they are ordered as each category first dark then light, so you would have the dark level, which is the high level, then the light level is the high rising, although there used to be a time where there was a distinction between a high level and a high falling, so I don't know about that, but I guess there was a split that then was remerged. Not much of an expert on this, but yeah. And then there's that middle level, which would be the dark rising. Light rising would be the low falling. Dark departing would be low rising, and light departing would be low level. So that's, I should probably pull up the comparisons on the screen just to let you know. There's huge variation in the realizations of the tones in various dialects. That's just 3 sample dialects, because then Mandarin, I'm talking standard Mandarin, and there's variation among Mandarin dialects probably. Cantonese, I only know of standard Cantonese. I bet if I look at Taishan Cantonese, which is represented in the Wiktionary, I will find differences. And then Minnan, I can see a table here, and there's variation among Minnan dialects. If you go to the page Hokkien and then click phonology, and you scroll down enough, you find this huge table. You've got, I was describing the contours of Xiamen, or in the dialect it's Emui, or I don't know the tones, sorry. But yeah, Amoy is how it was anglicized, by the way. But then there's the Taipei Hokkien, Tainan, Zhangzhou, Quanzhou, and Penang. Actually, I shouldn't aspirate that because that's a Malay name. And all of these have really different contours and different mergers of tone categories. Like I can see Quanzhou and Penang have merged the departing tones, but Quanzhou is the only one that preserves the distinction in the rising tones. So there's lots of variations to the evolutions of tones. So from that, we would not be able to reconstruct a description of the Middle Chinese tones. And the names, well, you've got level and rising, which are clear enough. Departing, what is it supposed to mean? Is it really supposed to mean falling, or is it something else? I don't know why they would call it departing. And then the entering tone, why is it called entering tone? Like, you're clashing against an unreleased plosive. How are you entering into something? It's more like not entering at all because the door is closed. Why is it called entering? I don't know. I guess you enter a door and someone outside doesn't see you anymore, so that's the blockage of the airflow. I guess that could be the metaphor, but it's really speculation. So why the names? Maybe someone is more knowledgeable. I should probably, if there is a question that I asked with an answer, I should definitely go check it out to learn this thing. But let's keep watching. Where was I even with the video? I had just discussed these contours. So I said Ping was going to be level, Shang was supposed to be rising, then Chu falling, and entering is just cut off by the unreleased plosive. So it's going to be, I said, a bip. So short syllables cut off by the plosives. But that's not the end of it, because we are talking about 691 to 740. That's in the period of late Middle Chinese. And late Middle Chinese had a split in each tone class, which I already kind of mentioned when I was going over the evolution of the tones. So there's 4 tone classes in early Middle Chinese, which have those names. But then I was saying yin and yang, which are light and dark. And that's a split that happened in late Middle Chinese. I'm about to say
dark and light registers, the yin and the yang
there
tone registers. So, unfortunately, the Wiktionary does not say what register each character belongs to.
Which is very unfortunate.
But from what I gather from Wikipedia, it seems that dark registers were caused by voiceless consonants, whereas voiced consonants would cause light registers. So I just took this and...
By the way, this voicing distinction was not preserved in Mandarin or in Cantonese, but apparently it generated a tone difference, and then that's what remained. At least in Cantonese, then Mandarin did its own mergers. So yeah, interesting how that happens, huh? In fact, I remember reading somewhere that English, some varieties of English may be on their way to generating tones, or at least have this kind of light and dark, but not with pitch, but with vowel quantity. So it's like after voiced plosives, the vowels tend to be longer, I think, than after voiceless plosives. So if the voicing distinction is lost, suddenly we have a... No, it's not a tone distinction. Okay, it's a vowel quantity distinction, I guess. And English and vowel quantity... It's a complicated history. Let's keep watching.
made it a rule, so voiceless, dark, voiced, light.
Okay.
So how do I make this emerge in my reading of the tones? Well, I lower the contour of the dark tones, which means that dark even will be something like a 3-3 or a 1-1, whereas 5-5 will be the light even.
Okay.
The dark rising will be 1-3, whereas 3-5 will be the light rising. The dark entering will be 3-1, whereas we'll have 5-1 for the light entering.
You are talking about the departing tones right here, not the entering tones. You misspoke, and now you're going to say entering tones again.
And we'll have a 5 and a 1 respectively for the light and dark entering.
Yep.
Did I just mix up the entering and the departing? Whatever.
Kind of.
Okay, so now the pronunciation that I found on the Wiktionary is extremely hard to make. So I might mess up on the light versus dark distinction.
Yeah.
So don't expect the greatest of precisions. Now I have to read the transliteration from my computer because there's no way I'm going to memorize it. It's too hard for me.
I think I have it in the description of that video.
Watch me as I painstakingly process this transliteration and pronounce it for you.
No, that weird. Yeah, we have something there. I don't know what the scheme was. I will probably put an explanation of that transliteration scheme eventually. Pausing this reaction and putting the explanation on screen, because I see a lot of diacritics in there, so an explanation would be advisable. Also, this is probably taking Wiktionary transliterations and then modifying it so that it's less intimidating or something. well, I'll figure it out and put an explanation on screen over this segment of me saying that I will do it.
Fun. Chūn Xiǎo.
Chūn Xiǎo.
Mèng Hàorán xia zhi.
So that's Mèng Hàorán xie zhi, or written by Mèng Hàorán.
Chūn Minh Bụt Cọc Hiểu Cho Muôn Đê Nèo Giá Lời Byung Yo Xiên Hoa Lót Chia Da Xiao.
Well, that was rather different. Also, I think the Wiktionary gives the pronunciation in IPA. I don't know if it gives IPA or some kind of transliteration, whatever. But yeah, that was very different from, you know, your 春眠不觉晓，处处闻啼鸟，夜来风雨声，花落知多少。Completely different. I should probably have like stopped at every line, you know, for comparison. I will definitely caption it with Chinese characters, Middle Chinese Frankenstein transliteration, and modern Mandarin transliteration.
There you have it. This should be close enough, at least in the sound. Maybe the tones were completely wrong, but whatever. It should be close enough to how Mèng Hàorán would have said it when he lived. Okay, so why am I telling you all this? The aim of this video, the main purpose of this video, was not to amuse you with this weird ass Middle Chinese thing. Let's go back to our story, shall we? So, beginning of 2013, the previous summer, I had met this Lebanese guy in the Rimini meeting, and I knew...
No. That was a very weird case of a fake memory, which goes hand in hand with, you know, the memory that I said before of having found the poem while preparing exams. No. The meeting with the Lebanese guy happened after finding the poem, and it happened in August of 2013, not 2012, 2013. Indeed, you read about it in my diary, and then it says, I basically thought back to that poem and thought I could translate it into Arabic because I just met the Lebanese guy. But let's go on, because I'm going to say it in the video as well.
He spoke Arabic. Now, I'm a weirdo who likes to study random languages in his spare time and actually try to translate stuff into languages he knows next to nothing about.
And I still do that. Oh, by the way, it's Arabic, but I'd still do that. I have my tricks up my sleeves, and the idea that I find a guy who speaks, or whom I think speaks a language X, and I try to do something with X, has happened many more times than just Arabic, because I did it with Danish, I did it with Hungarian, I did it with Czech, Slovak, I did it with Swahili. I was actually encouraged to try out Swahili. And Lingala was a more complicated story. That's a story for another day and for a lifetime of translation series. But yeah, Hindi and Persian also number on this list. Hindi is where the I think speaks part comes in. because I met 2 Indian girls and I said, okay, they must speak Hindi, so let's try Hindi. Except maybe not. I mean, with the Indian anthem being in Bengali and not Hindi, Indeed, the second Indian girl I met was probably not that fluent of a speaker of Hindi, because when she attended another friend of mine's wedding, she said she would try to speak Hindi. And then she pulled it off, but still, it's not a given that Indian people speak Hindi, apparently. Bold of me to assume that it was, huh? And I probably should be saying Hindustani, because you'll be saying, well, people can speak Urdu instead of Hindi, but they're essentially the same language, just 2 different formal registers. But I will not be getting into that. Let's keep watching.
Just by learning the basics of how the grammar works in those languages, and then word by word composing sentences.
That's how I do it even now.
And I bump into this poem. I have this guy who could correct my translation into Arabic. I say, why not?
Yeah, the why not part is correct, except it happened in September. And I say that it happened then because of the diary, and also because if I had done the translation earlier than that, it would appear somewhere, and it does not. It does not show up anywhere until late September. I don't know if the earliest occurrence is a Facebook post where I tag the Lebanese guy, or a file on my hard disk, which is, I think, a Google Translate file where I parked where I temporarily stored the translation just to put it somewhere, and then I ended up saving the Google Translate tab.
So I translated this into Arabic now. First, before we hear the Arabic translation, which is the apex of this video, the climax of this video, I think we should understand what the poem says.
Yeah, I guess so.
So, first of all, when I translate a poem, I usually try to keep the meter and more or less the length.
Yeah, I still do that. I mean, when I translate a poem, I try to translate it with a meter, which usually will be either the same as the original or an imitation of the original. There are examples where I choose different meters, like when I translated Carpe Diem, not as barbarous greater Asclepiads, but as a sonnet into Italian, or when I translated London by Blake, not as novenari, but as endecasillabi into Italian. When I say I try to keep the meter and roughly the length, the distinction is because if I'm keeping a kind of line that I am adhering to, I have freedom over how many of those lines I use for the translation. I think there is at least one example of a translation which has one more line than the original, but is in the same meter. Of course, if we're talking about a meter which is in the form of stanzas, then I can have extra stanzas. I usually try not to do that for a matter of lineup, because, when I'm writing my blog posts, I want the original sided with the translation, and if the translation is not the same length, lining them up can be problematic. Of course, if I'm translating a song, then there's no shot. I have to keep the same number of verses. I have to keep the same number of lines per verse, because I have a tune to respect. And I don't think I ever conceived the idea of splitting, of translating 2 verses into 3. That may allow me to retain more of the original, but really it probably wouldn't even work out, because verses are supposed to be units, right? So if I take 2 verses and I turn them into 3, it means that there's an extra verse which is bits of each of the two, and I don't think it could work out. I don't know. I mean, I have in mind the song where I lost, but you know, usually they are minor details that I lose in translation. And besides, when I have a tune to respect, I have more freedom than when I'm respecting a number of syllables, because I can add extra syllables now. I mean, back then when I first made the translation of this poem, I was more rigid in this syllable count thing, even with songs. But nowadays, I am very free in adding or subtracting syllables without exaggerating. But I mean, again, there are extreme examples, like my first Hindi and Persian translations, which can barely even be said to fit the tune. I'll probably link this in the description if I remember to. If I don't, please comment. But anyways, so that's the distinction between length and meter.
In this case, this is impossible even in English, because the Chinese is extremely condensed.
That last bit is true. The first bit, we will see.
Just to give you an idea, let me translate it to you, okay, character by character.
Character by character.
So, spring, sleep, not, feel, dawn. Place, hear, tweet, bird. Night, come, wind, rain, sound. Flower, fall, no, many, few.
Where no is the verb, by the way. I should probably caption that.
And you'll be like, what the hell does that mean?
Indeed.
Yeah, well, I told you the Chinese was very condensed. So, let me give you a translation. Okay, I think it is completely impossible to keep the 4-5 syllable line structure of the original poem, even in English, let alone in Arabic, which I basically don't know. I'll tell you a couple of things about my level of Arabic in a while, but in English it's impossible to keep this. So I translated this into 4 iambic pentameters. That's twice as many syllables as in Chinese.
That's pronounced iambic. It's weird that I, which was supposed to be a semiconsonant in Latin, turned out as a long I in English, and then it ended up as a diphthong because of the great vowel shift. But that's what happened. I suppose for some reason the stress was shifted to it, which is weird, because I don't know. I guess the word I am was borrowed straight from Latin. It retained that I, and then English tends to put the stress further back, so the I got the stress, then it got lengthened because of the stress, and then it got through the great vowel shift. I guess that's what happened. But anyways, iambic.
So, if in spring you sleep and do not feel dawn, with birds a-singing everywhere you go.
Feel dawn? What the hell does that mean? As I wanted to say, but I forgot, that jue is probably better translated as aware of or perceiving than feeling. And birds are singing everywhere you go sounds kind of terrible, especially like us singing in there really doesn't fit. It's just for meter, but yeah. And the addition of the you go doesn't seem very fitting, at least to me now.
Then, when night comes with sound of wind and rain, do you know just how many flowers fell?
Okay, so this translation is a bit of a mystery in terms of dating, because it only shows up, it seems to be first recorded precisely by this video. So, when did I make it? Because I have rough dates for the Arabic translation. I mean, I have the Facebook posts still. I have the saved translate, whatever file it was. And then I will tell some more of the story. But this translation, as far as I can tell, it was made specifically for the video. So it might have just been made the day before or even the same day as I shot the video. Because it is in iambic pentameters. So yeah, I mean, I've looked through my files, it does not show up before the video. I've looked through my chat with myself on Facebook, and it doesn't show up there either. I have a bunch of screenshots, which I should look into. I have looked throughout the half a month from the day of shooting the video backwards, and still I haven't found anything. Eventually I will look through all of those screenshots and make a sort of diary of them, and then maybe something will show up. But I kind of tend to think that I actually made it for this video.
Seems like an interesting poem, right? Now, I originally misinterpreted this poem. Now, a couple of language notes. Now, place means everywhere, and many few is the way to say how many.
And apparently, night come means last night, which I missed back then. So yeah, that's one point that I should make that shows that this interpretation is kind of flawed, but much more on that later.
When I first translated this into Arabic, I was pretty convinced that hualua, that's flower for, actually meant to waste. So the original translation of this thing was and the night comes with sound of wind and rain. You've wasted lots. Do you know just how much? But then yesterday I looked this up and the internet told me otherwise. So I just changed the translation. Arabic. Now the thought process behind the translation into a language I know almost nothing about, like I had this Iraqi.
Okay, before we go on with the anecdote, this correction thing makes me perplexed about the dating of that English translation. But maybe the correction only happened in the Arabic, where it definitely did happen, and the English was made directly with the correct... No, I just quoted the original. I don't know, I guess I made the translation, then I looked the thing up, and then I changed it. Or the English is from much earlier. Bit of a mystery there. We'll eventually look into it, but you know, I got a crazy amount of things to do. Link to my blog to-do list in the description. This is the hobby. I have a job as well. So, you know, eventually.
Erasmus girl in my class.
Iraqi Erasmus girl, I was saying.
In the last course I followed in uni, which ended just last week. And
what was the name?
When I have classmates who speak different languages, I tend to look up expressions, greetings on the Wiktionary in those languages. So I looked.
So the current version of this is that I actually used to look up how to say things like happy birthday or happy new year, Merry Christmas, this kind of things, in the native language of whoever I was wishing these things to. And then wish them these things in their language, or in one of their native languages, I guess, because, you know, there's this girl who is half Italian, half Slovak, and I usually do it, I usually wish her a happy birthday in Slovak, because I still remember it, kind of. And then there's the people so during the time of university, I was infiltrating, if you will, a Chinese language course from another degree course. And the people I added on Facebook from those courses, I used to, and I still do, wish them happy birthdays in Chinese, even though they're not Chinese. So that's the one exception. And I do it with a bunch of languages now, with like Christmas wishes and things like that. I do not do it in Bulgarian because I'm lazy and I don't want to look them up. Although with a happy birthday I remember it, so I still use it. In general, I tend to not look things up anymore. I go off memory, or I just use English or whatever language we both speak. So let's keep on with the anecdote.
I looked up how are you in both Kurdish and then Arabic. So one day I said, كيف حالك? And she answered, بخير. You know how I understood what she said? Because I connected it to the expression كل عام وأنتم بخير, which, if I remember correctly, means Happy New Year. So it's like, to understand happy,
I think it's correct.
I reconstructed via the expression Happy New Year.
Accidentally. Interesting. Apparently it's كل عام وأنتم بخير. I guess that's classical versus modern standard or something. Or maybe كل عام وأنتم بخير is some kind of dialect. I don't know. But apparently it can mean both happy birthday and happy new year. I wonder what it means literally at this point. Because kul means everything. Let's see if Google helps me with this. I've been recording for almost 49 minutes now, so that's very long. Well, that's interesting. Google gives me season's greetings, but then it suggests also Happy New Year, God willing. Okay, let's break it down word by word, please, Google. All, general, and you all are fine. What? I'm curious to know how the same phrase can mean both happy birthday and happy new year. I mean, maybe it means happy return of the year, and then it can mean both. But I mean, from the Google word by word translation, it doesn't seem like that. So somebody please explain, or maybe I've already explained it on screen.
So it's like, to understand happy, I reconstructed via the expression Happy New Year.
Yeah.
That is my level of Arabic.
Yeah. Still pretty much the same now. Maybe a few more words because I've made a bunch of translations into Arabic. So maybe just a little bit better, but not much.
Pretty low, isn't it? And yet, I managed to pull off a translation. Now, the thought process of the translation itself, if I ever start my blog, will be described in a blog post about this thing.
I don't think I have done that. I have started a blog. It was still an uncertain idea at that time. It was proposed to me by my brother sometime in May. And then this video is shot on the 1st of June, which is also the day where I opened the blog. So that same evening, I opened the blog, and posting the first post took until past midnight. But anyways, I don't think the post about this poem on the blog actually describes this thought process. So I will illustrate it abstractly. I will illustrate it with the first line. So, if in spring you sleep and do not feel dawn, is my mental translation of the first Chinese line. So if we want to convey that in Arabic, we obviously have to figure out what to translate if into. And what I found was إذا. So إذا is going to be the first word. Now, I found out somehow that there's a rule where this conjunction, and probably also others, where other subordinating conjunctions, require a past tense even if the clause is supposed to be in the present. So, if you sleep, so you look up sleep, and it turns out that the form for the past tense, indicative, affirmative, second person singular, the thou form, not the ye form, is nimta. So, إذا nimta. And you don't need to put the pronoun because Arabic has heavy conjugations and allows dropping of pronouns, like Italian and like Spanish, and unlike French, because French has massively simplified the phonic substance of conjugations, but I'm digressing. So, إذا نمت. What was in the middle between if and you sleep? It was in spring. So we will need in, which is fi, and spring is الربيع. I don't know exactly why, but I figured that I should use an article here. So the article is al, but most consonants turn the L of this article into themselves, and ra is not one of the exceptions. So not ar-rabīṛi, but ar-rabīṛi. So إذا في ar-rabīṛi nimta is what you get for if in spring you sleep. But this is actually the modern standard Arabic, I think, the Fusha. But if you want classical Arabic had cases. So you need to inflect the noun as well. Modern standard Arabic has done away with those endings, but if you want classical Arabic, you need the genitive ending. So إذا في ar-rabīṛi nimta. Then and is wa. Not okay, and we have and you don't feel dawn. So again, the pronoun can be dropped. We need a negation for the don't, and that negation is going to be lam. And Arabic is one of many languages where you negate a verb by just putting a negative adverb before it. So instead of using don't and then not inflect, so you inflect the do, and then the main verb is in the bare infinitive form. It's instead of you don't feel, you would say kind of you feel not, which is what English did until 1 or 2 centuries ago. If you read the Jungle Book in the unabridged version, you find a lot of that, even in questions like, think you, he will stay with us? That's an actual quote. I don't know why I still remember it, but that's an actual quote. So you need the negator, which is lam. And then you need feel. Feel, again, should be in the past, but I think I've forgotten that in the old translation because I wasn't very good at doing this, apparently. And the form is, I think, شعرت. شعرت. These emphatics are kind of troublesome. And then dawn is fajr. Again, you want the article. So walam sharta al-fajr. Does F actually turn al into F? I don't think so. But anyways, that would be, assuming feel is transitive, that would be what comes out in modern standard Arabic. And if you want the case ending, that would be the accusative, which is actually a. So al-fajra. I got that wrong. I'm pretty sure I got al-fajru, or maybe al-fajri. I don't remember. We will hear it anyway. But the other thing is that actually sharta, as far as I can tell, is supposed to not be transitive, so it's not شَغَرْتَ الفجر, it's شَغَرْتَ بِالْفَجْرِ. So you've got the preposition be, the article contracts with be, and then you've got the genitive because that's what the preposition requires. So that's the first line. إذا في ar-rabīṛi نمت ولم شغرت بالفجر. Hopefully that's correct now. Of course, feel the dawn is always weird, but aside from that, the grammar should be fine at this point. I'm not doing that for the whole poem because we've already been here for 57 minutes. This is going to be a hell of a long video when I finally put it together. And already the first line was quite long to decode like that. But that's the idea. I am eventually going to do like a stream where I do a translation like that in full. It's going to be from French to Turkish. I have already gotten like one line translated. I will eventually do it. I don't know when. It's definitely not going to be before October, even in October, because up to October everything is planned already for this channel. Believe it or not, this is really unbelievable for me because I usually plan one day for the next weekend, and here I am with almost half a year planned already. But let's keep watching because the video is still... Oh, there's only 5 minutes left of the video. Okay.
Because otherwise this video would be far too long.
Indeed.
Now, flash forward some 3 years from then. So we get to sometime around New Year's Day 2016. I was on a pilgrimage in the Holy Land.
Yeah, I remember.
I thought back to this translation, and I thought, why don't I cantillate it?
Okay, so, if I remember correctly, the reposts of the brushed up translation, we will see this brushing up, what this entails, were posted in the first days of January 2016. And maybe I thought back to the poem a bit earlier, so in late December 2015. Yeah, so I thought of cantillating it, and eventually I did, but let's go on with the story.
You know, like when people recite sacred texts from certain religions, for example, cantillation is a term I found on Wikipedia for special signs used in Hebrew Bibles to indicate this kind of pitch modulation.
Yeah, so from what I'm saying in the video, it would seem that my model for this cantillation was the Bible, but actually what I had in mind was Quran recitations, which are also performed in this kind of way. And since I was translating into Arabic, I was like, Arabic, Quran, and maybe classical Arabic, but we'll get to that. So yeah, I put some cantillation on it because of this comparison, this model of Quran recitations. Hopefully this is not offensive to anybody. You know, modeling what I do with the profane thing on something sacred like Quran recitations. I don't know. I'm sure that I would not be offended if someone would try the same thing using Gregorian hymns as a model. But I'm not a Muslim. I don't know if this could ever be offensive.
In reciting the Bible.
Bible or Quran.
So I added some cantillation. Now the extension of this cantillation is decidedly too big, but whatever. I'm not changing it for anything.
Yeah, the extension is quite a bit bigger than what I think is usually done with Quran. Not that I've actually listened to a full recitation, only little bits.
in the process, I brushed up my translation and I said, whoa, this is wrong. Actually, what I did was turn it into more classical language. So I added the case endings back in. Modern Standard Arabic loses them, as far as I know. Classical Arabic didn't lose them, so I added them back in, because coupled with cantillation, classical, so it makes it sound very solemn. And, well, of course I had to correct the mistake I pointed out before, and then there's the when that came in as a result of the correction of the mistake. So there were a few corrections that I did like yesterday, actually some yesterday, some today. By the way, today is the 1st of June 2017.
Yeah,
so
that's the date.
A year and a few months from the time I thought back to the translation and added the cantillation.
Oh, by the way, I am recording in the video that we're reacting to is recorded in a study room next to a chapel, next to the university chapel. Apparently that morning there was nobody in that study room, so I could use it for this purpose. What else did I want to say? I think there was another thing I wanted to say, but I can't remember what it was. Oh yeah, the when. That's another change that apparently didn't make it in the English translation in the video. Because we will see, I mean, you will probably see via captions that the Arabic translation ended up saying, then when night comes with sound of wind and rains, not and the night comes, as I said in the English translation a while ago in the video we are watching. And I actually implemented that change into the English after the video. I don't know how long after, but it's definitely going to be written in the post, which is quite lengthy because there's a lot of history to go through, and also these old translations are a bit messy, but yeah, the post will be linked to in the description for sure. Okay, so we are at 1 hour and 6 minutes of recording the reaction, and we still have 3 minutes of video left.
I also had to modify the cantillation itself because the number of syllables grew as I corrected the mistakes. But enough chit chat, let's just hear this translation's cantillated thingy.
That was another weird cut. In the middle of a word, you've got this dip in volume. That's so weird. I wonder how I was doing cuts back then.
Wish me luck. Arabic speakers listening, have fun while I butcher your language. Okay, no, this is a bit exaggerated, but be ready for any pronunciation and especially grammar mistakes in this translation. Because
same goes for
that
the present
Lebanese guy,
translations.
I posted the translation to Facebook tagging him, but he did not quite respond.
Yeah.
Then I reposted it when I thought back to it. He did correct one mistake. I don't even remember what it was. It was something about Purani, some kind of...
Yeah, that's definitely explained in the post. Actually, I think what happened was that I was using some kind of collective noun for birds, which happened to be a different gender than the base noun. So like, I don't know, the base noun, let me just look this up, please. So if I look up bird for Arabic, I find there we go, ta'ir, which is masculine, and then you've got the plural tuyur, which I think is actually feminine and a collective noun of some sort. So Wiktionary is giving me 3 plurals for this ta'ir. One is atyar, one is tuyur, and one is tair. I don't know why I choose tuyur back in the day. But no, tuyur is given as masculine plural here. I don't know. There's definitely some explanation in the post. I figured something out that explained this comment, but the comment by the Lebanese guy was a change in gender in the verb, I think, if I remember correctly. Again, look at the post, it's definitely explained there.
Weird rule about plurals and genders, I don't remember.
Exactly.
Anyways.
I don't remember now either.
إذا في الربيع نمت ولم تشعر الفجر وإنما في كل مكان تسمع أن الطيور تغني.
Okay, I'll stop you right there. So, a few things here. First of all, as I said, it's not supposed to be tasha'uru. It's supposed to be sha'arta, because again, it's under idha, so it should be past tense. Secondly, sha'arta bil fajri, and you heard it was tasha'uru al fajri is what I sang. So that's wrong, because the accusative would be al fajra. Also, lima is not the negation that you want. You want lam. I don't even know what lima was, but it was not it was, maybe it was kind of negative, but it was not the negator of the sentence negator, right? It's, again, see the post. Fi kul makan. I don't know what happened there, because it's supposed to be fi kulli makan. I don't know why I lost those endings. It's almost like it's, again, case endings for some reason, but Wiktionary now just gives me the form with these endings, so I don't know what's up with that. Indama does not require the past tense, I don't think, so that should be correct. But if the post says differently, then I'm wrong now.
إذن عندما الليلة أتى والريح والمطر صوتا.
And here we have ata, which is a past tense, but we're under عندما, which is not required, so we're wrong again. And صوتا, ditto, it should be يصوت.
هل تتعرف كم أوراق وقوم.
What else? Is there anything else that I want to point out? Well, I already pointed out the then when. So إذن is then, and عندما means when. So you will see when I quote the original version of this with the misunderstanding of walwa that I mentioned before, you will see that there's just a wa at the beginning of that. I don't know how I got awraqun. I could not figure out how to spell it even, because I was quite sloppy in my work here, and there's oscillation between like the video and the post, whether there should be a kaf or a kaf in that thing, but I couldn't find it on the Wiktionary, so I don't know what that's supposed to mean. But then I replaced it with zuhurun, which actually means flowers, which is what I meant here in the final version of this cantillated thing. Waqa'u instead is still there.
Hope that was good enough. Any comments are welcome. Now let me just go over the last two lines in the original version. The original version with,
of course, comments are still welcome and appreciated.
the translation mistake and with no when.
Yeah. That's the original.
وَأَلَّا الْأَتَى وَالرِّيحُ وَالْمَطَارُ صَوَّتَا هَلْ تَتَعَرَّفُ كَمْ فَقَدْتَ.
Do you know how much you've wasted? كم فقدت.
So that's it. Hope you enjoyed your video. Feel free to smash that like button if you did. Comment below, share the video and whatnot. And have a nice day, and I'll see you in the next video.
Yeah, so I'm not good at doing YouTube outros because I never do them. I basically never do them. Usually I end the singing and that's where the video ends. But in this video, I had to do it, and I have to do it in the video that you're watching now as well. Indeed, I've already recorded it because I've recorded the parts out of order. My god, this part is much longer than I expected it to be. Look at that timer. 1:14, 47, 48, 49. That's gonna be a long video. And it's gonna take forever to edit. But anyways, yeah, that's the old video, and now we will go back to karate to discuss new pieces of information about these translations, and also new translations that happened, and also a reinterpretation. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. Let's transfer ourselves and continue the discussion there. So, first of all, the Arabic one. Let's give a brief rundown of the history. So, as was said before, the first post, which is the earliest record of the translation, dates to like the end of September of 2013. Exact date on the blog post linked in the description. Then there's a timeline of 4 posts from 2013 to 2014, I think. Again, exact dates on the blog, which changed basically nothing in the translation. But the last of these 4 posts actually has comments which are from 2016, so between the 2nd and the 4th of January 2016, which is when I thought back to this during my pilgrimage to the Holy Land, and they contain some corrections that I made to this translation, some changes. The classicalification of the translation, if you will. Yeah, the idea behind some of these corrections was that I wanted this to be classical Arabic, and that's also the point in time where I thought up the cantillation idea. The model was obviously Quran recitations. Hopefully that's not blasphemy to use Quran as a model for a profane poem. But that's what happened. But anyways, after these comments, there's another post from the 4th of January 2016, where I probably sum up all of the comments, and then I also have a section of corrections, which I actually copied into the blog as they were. They are in Italian, and at least one of them comes from Rameh. And yeah, that's the timeline from pre-blog times, essentially. Then, as far as I can remember, I left this to sediment or something, until near the end of May 2017, I decided I wanted to make a video of this, because I now had a YouTube channel with, like, what was it, 3 videos, right? Yeah, 3 videos. So yeah, I went back, I apparently recovered the translation, and apparently I lost some of the changes, or maybe I undid them for whatever reason. I have no idea. One thing that I do know is that on the 31st of May 2017, as per the chat I have with myself on Facebook, I corrected the mistranslation that is discussed in the video. And apparently I also made an English translation at some point, but we'll get back to that. So yeah, then I shot the video. Then on the 4th of July 2017, I posted this because of course I needed to post it. The blog was supposed to contain all of my poetic translations after all, so this is one that had to go there. And in posting this, I actually posted a slightly different version from the video. So the posts and comments on Facebook bring us to the 2016B version on the blog. The 2013 original is, of course, the very first version. Then we've got the video version, which is the one in the video. And then we've got the blog original version, which is what I originally had on the blog, before coming back to it yet again in 2023 as a part of my blog archaeology project, which involved like making the chronological index and dating everything as precisely as possible. And as I was writing out the complex history of this mess of a translation, I looked at it and I was like, this is garbage. So on the 19th of April 2023, apparently over a period of about 3 hours, but I am definitely going to investigate that and see if it actually took that long. But anyway, on that day, I sat down and I made a bunch of changes to the translation, which are all listed on the blog. And this is what leads us to the 2023 fixed version, which is also the final version of this cantillated Arabic translation, and which is the one that I'm going to perform eventually in part 4. And then there's the English. So even now, it is completely a mystery to me when exactly I made the translation. So the fact of the matter is, the translation is not recorded anywhere on my devices up until the date of the video, which is 1st of June 2017. So by that video, the translation existed. When did I make it? I have no idea. My guess would be that I went to recover this poem around the end of May, so I made the translation either there or overnight just for the video, or even during the recording of the video. So I would put this translation somewhere either in the second half of May or on the 1st of June 2017. The chat that I have with myself on Facebook, unfortunately, has nothing about this English translation. And the screenshots that I have from that time period do not show it anywhere between the 1st of June and the 23rd of May. I will eventually go through all of those screenshots, make a sort of diary, and see what I can draw from there, which is useful for dating anything on the blog. But until then, this is all I have. What I do not have to assume anything about is when I made the changes to line 2 and line 3, which bring us from the video's English version to the English version that I am eventually going to perform in part 4 of this video. Because those are fortunately dated to the 21st and 22nd of March, respectively, 2024.
I think it is completely impossible to keep the 4 5-syllable line structure of the original poem, even in English.
Completely impossible, eh? Well, 19th of February 2023, me walking through Hagia Sophia in Istanbul definitely begged to differ. And he actually pulled it off. So we do have an equimetrical translation from that day, plus a tweak from the 2nd of May of the same year. And then I tried it with Arabic. So I actually tried to do an equimetrical translation into Arabic. So a translation into 4 lines of 5 syllables each in Arabic. And I went pretty close, actually. In fact, if I split a word between the last 2 lines, I have it. Imagine that. That translation was made on the 1st of May 2023, late in the evening, almost midnight. And then, well, at that point I actually decided it was impossible to do this translation. Then on the 6th of May 2023 in the afternoon, I tried using a bit of a trick, which is making the last two lines one syllable too long, and that's how I got the actual translation. And I probably noticed it only later, but if I split the first word of the nominal last line between the penultimate and last line, and drop what is currently the last word of the penultimate line, the result is a perfectly equimetrical translation, except there's a word that splits between lines. What is it even called? A sinafia in Italian, and in English, sinafia? I'll probably have it in the captions. But yeah, so there's also another start that I made. So I tried this equimetrical thing with two different starts on the 1st of May. Then there was the trick on the 6th of May applied to one of the starts, and the other one is still missing one last line that couldn't be condensed enough. And then there's a small tweak that I made on the 18th of March 2024, which actually starts from correcting something that was a transliteration mistake, and then tweaks the thing again. It's the first line. All right, so to make up for this insuccess, this half failure of the equimetrical Arabic, I decided to musicate this. So to take this thing and compose a tune for it, which followed the tones with its notes. And I did so around midnight between the 1st and 2nd of May. Full details in the blog, but on the 6th and the 5th, I made some changes, and then some of those changes were undone or improved because I wanted this to follow the pentatonic scale, which it originally actually didn't. There was one note outside of it, which I then fixed. The last change in that direction was on the 14th of March 2024. So that's the tune. But what was I supposed to sing to it besides the Chinese and the Equimetrical English? I definitely wanted to have something Arabic to sing to this tune, right? And I couldn't sing the incomplete, failed attempt at equimetrical Arabic. So what I did was make a compromise. I can't do equimetrical, let's do double the number of syllables so that I can at least, hopefully, condense everything into it in Arabic, in my non-existent Arabic, which I construct by abusing the Wiktionary and Google Translate. And so I did that. When did I do that? Let's see. Right after the tune, actually. Still in that night. And it took me almost an hour. Well, it took me 3/4 of an hour from midnight 10 to midnight 57. And this is the only Arabic translation that I actually managed to get corrected, because eventually I wanted to get these Arabic translations corrected, obviously. So my first thought was to contact my Muslim friend, who is actually Indian, who has studied Arabic because, Quran has to be read in Arabic by Muslims. So I thought maybe she knows Arabic better than I do, because I don't. So maybe she can correct stuff. And the verdict was that she was not able to help me, but her Syrian friend might. And so I waited, and eventually, so I sent this to her around the time when I made the 2023 fixed version and all the blog archaeology stuff. Eventually, I prompted her for news about this in March 2024, I think. Either March or February. And she said she didn't even remember sending it. So, well, she did send the translation eventually, and I got corrections for it. I mean, she couldn't send all of the 3 translations that we've discussed so far in one go, so I had her send this one first. And on the 19th of March 2024, I got the corrections and I metabolized them, and yeah, there was one wrong verb. Actually, I didn't get a correction. I got a translation from the Arabic to English, and I saw 2 things that were not what I intended. One was due to an error in the Arabic text, but the transliteration had it right. There's so many instances of me having the transliteration and the Arabic not match for whatever reason. But anyway, once that was fixed, that should have fixed the problem of line 2. And then line 3 had the wrong verb for to know, so I actually fixed that. It used to be Safa tasta'iru fi al-layli, and then I figured out I should have used another verb which was shorter, so I stuck in another word, and I was able to align that article. And so yeah, this is the end of the timeline of this old interpretation. So now it's time for the sum up, which is part 4, and then we go into the interpretation problems. So here we are in Pisa with terrible lighting, but what am I to do? I did not have time to record this today, and it's currently 8:18, 8:19 in the evening. I do what I can. And so we are ready to sing the multiple translations of the old interpretation in their final forms. So, Chūn Xiǎo, الفجر في ar-rabīŕi, spring dawn. 春眠不觉晓，处处闻啼鸟，夜来风雨声，花落知多少。If in spring you sleep and do not feel dawn, when bird songs can be heard in any place, and then night comes with sounds of stormy winds, do you know just how many flowers fell? Do not sleep in spring, hear the birds at dawn, then you'll know at night how many blooms fell. أشعل بالفجر لا تنام سوف تعرف كم غدت زهور وقعوا. Always feel the dawn, do not sleep, you will very well know how many flowers fell. في الربيع لا تنام في الفجر استمع إلى الأذكار دوما سوف جيد تعرف في الليل كم أزهار قد تساقطا. إذا في الربيع نمت ولم شغلت بالفجر وإنما في كل مكان تسمع أن الطيور يغني إذا عندما الليل يأتي والريح والمطر يصوت هل تعرف كم زهور وقعوا. So, I think it was still 2022 when I first came into contact with online translations of this poem, which all seemed to go something like, sleeping in spring, I hardly know day breaks. Everywhere I can hear birds singing. At night I heard the sound of wind and rain. Next morning, who knows how many flowers had fallen. Which is quite different from what I had read in this poem. I initially kind of ignored this, but then it stuck in my mind and was bothering me. So eventually, I asked a question on Chinese Stack Exchange, comparing the two translations, weeding out some of the possible non-literalities, and then asking which of the resulting versions was the better translation according to whoever answered. The result is that I kind of got a third interpretation. So the thing is, two things actually. The first thing is a mistranslation on my part. So Chinese does not use spaces between words, so I was very liable to not recognizing that ye lai is actually a single word meaning last night, rather than ye night lai come. So night comes, which is what I thought it was. So that's another mistranslation, which is like the opposite of what I did with hua luo, if you remember what I said in part 1. And the other thing is that I kind of tried to join together the two halves of the poem, whereas they're supposed to be kind of separated. So imagine the scene of this guy is still in bed during dawn in spring. Probably there's sunshine creeping through his window on his eyes, maybe. And he's still drowsy, so he's hearing the bird songs, and he doesn't quite know where the bird songs are coming. It's like they're coming from everywhere, from all places, here, there, dovunque. Quoting Aladdin in Italian. But yeah, so this is the scene, and then he remembers that the night before there was a storm, so he heard the sound of wind and rain instead of bird songs, and at this point he thinks that some flowers must have fallen in the storm, of course, and he doesn't know how many, and probably nobody knows exactly how many. That's I think that is the concept. So the answers to this question, proposing this third interpretation, came on the 6th of March 2024, and one of them, the second one that came in, had its own poetic translation of it. But now we're getting into part 6. So as I was saying, there was this one answer that had a poetic translation, which was in essentially octosyllabes, so 8 lines of 8 syllables with the first 2 and the last 2 rhyming, or near rhyming maybe. So that's probably the first translation that I'm going to perform in the last sum up. And the first answer that came in is the one that made me realize what I said in part 5. So from this translation from the answer, I tried to build a new equimetrical translation. So I modified this into something which wanted to be equimetrical, but I wasn't quite satisfied with how I ended up making the last line, which I eventually made to rhyme, but I wasn't quite satisfied. So at this point I had to make my own remakes of both equimetrical and double-syllable English. And let me see. I'm kind of reading off of the blog post because everything is in there, of course. So the answer came in on the 6th of March. I read it on the 6th of March probably, but then I wanted to meditate it a bit, so I left it there. I was kind of busy with a bunch of other things, so I eventually came back to it on the 17th of March. That's when I modified the answers translation. And then I went on to try to make my own translation. It was in the evening. And I ended up with a somewhat nice Equimetrical English translation. And I added it as an update to my question, asking if it was better than the ones that I had done before. And the answer with who had made the translation that I mentioned before, so in response to this update, he updated the answer with another translation, which was essentially double syllable. I think it was conceived, it's an AI translation, so was it conceived as double syllable or as iambic pentameters? But anyway, yeah, it was kind of a great translation, but it was not equimetrical, so I kind of stuck to my own, but I also considered the AI translation, and I will perform it as a double syllable translation. And this answer also did another thing in response to my update. He left a comment on the question suggesting a little tweak. That was much later, on the 24th of March, in the dead of night for my time zone, probably not his time zone, I assume. And also the edit to the answer was in the dead of night for me. So yeah, little tweak to the equimetrical translation, and this is it for the equimetrical. And then there's the AI translation. And then I was like, okay, it's time to put my hands to the Arabic, because I've remade the English equimetrical translation. I need to remake the Arabic one. Of course, I'm not gonna make rhymes in it because I don't speak the language, so I don't do rhymes in Arabic. So I remade the equimetrical Arabic. That was the 17th of March still. Wow, really? I managed to remake it still in that evening. Yeah, I had a lot of free time, I guess. The English one was probably remade while I was cooking. And then after cooking, after putting the vegetables in the pot, I came back to the computer and I said, okay, let's do the equimetrical Arabic and then go for dinner. So on the 21st of March, I then put this together because, of course, I was working, I was making this translation in pieces, as is my custom, either on the self-chat or maybe on my translations note directly. So on the 21st of March, I finally put this together. And I realized a mistake, I corrected, and I also changed line 1 another bit. So the blog shows you the original version put together on the 21st and then goes through the changes. And then we've got, of course, the double syllable versions. Late at night on the 23rd of March and going into the night, I sit down and try to remake this double syllable English translation, and I end up with like 5 different versions because of various possibilities that I consider. So essentially, I make a lot of little pieces, and then I put them together a while later on the 3rd of April 2024. As for the Arabic double syllable remake, well, I get around to making it on the 24th of March, so the day after I did the double syllable English. and then I have a tweak the day after that. So finally I've finished remaking everything, and until I have corrections, that's it. We can now go into the last sum up, last singing part, and the end of the video. And then, if I get corrections to any of the Arabic translations, or any comments to any of those, then I will make another video about this poem to perform the corrected versions. And here we are in Pisa one last time to sing all of the translations, the myriad of translations of the new interpretation. So more specifically, we've got 3 English equimetrical translations, well, 1 almost equimetrical translation in English, 2 English equimetrical translations, 1 equimetrical Arabic translation, 6 English double-syllable translations, and finally, the Arabic double-syllable translation. So again, Chūn Xiǎo, Spring Dawn, الفجر في الربيع.春眠不觉晓，处处闻啼鸟。夜来风雨声，花落知多少。Slumber beyond dawn in spring, birds everywhere are heard to sing. A night of wind and rain, fallen leaves unascertained. Sleep past dawn in spring, birds everywhere do sing. At night wind and rain, flowers fell in pain. Drowsy past sunrise, I hear birds all round, with last night's wind cries. Flowers fell on ground. أنام في الفجر أسمع الطيور البارق في الريق وقع الورود. Spring's light paints my face a brand new morn. Birdsong floods the air a joyful horn. A night of wind's harsh cry and rain's soft sigh. Leaves unseen beneath a tear-filled sky. O'er my drowsy eyes the sunshine creeps. I hear joyful bird songs all around. Last night of a storm I heard the sound. I don't know how many a petal weeps. Sunshine's creeping o'er my drowsy eyes. I hear joyful bird songs all around. Last night of a storm I heard the sound. Many petals fell through stormy skies. As I'm drowsy, dawn creeps over me. All around me birds sing joyfully. Last night of a storm I heard the sound. How many blooms were hurled unto the ground. O'er my drowsy eyes the rising sun. All around me bird songs have begun. Last night of a storm I heard the sound. How much damage to the flowers was done. As I'm drowsy, dawn creeps over me. All around me birds sing joyfully. Last night of a storm I heard the sound. How many blooms on the ground may be. نائم في الفجر أنا سمعت في كل مكان الأطيار. كان عاصفا في البحر وقعوا في الريح كالزهور. And with this story finally comes to an end, at least for now. If I ever get corrections for some of these translations into Arabic, like happened with the double-syllable old interpretation one, then maybe there will be follow-up videos. But for now, this is it. Long story, lots of translations. This is the end of the video, so goodbye everyone. Please like the video, share it, subscribe, whatever, standard YouTube stuff. Have a great rest of your day and stay tuned for the next video. Speaking of offensiveness, I once used, so there was one weekend, so I'm publishing one video per weekend since almost 4 years ago now, actually slightly over 4 years ago now. And so when I miss a weekend, I usually try to give an idea of why I missed the weekend in the intro to the next video. So one time I missed a weekend because I was in Istanbul, and as the clue I showed a photo of Hagia Sophia with a clip of a muezzin singing a prayer. And apparently this is offensive. Now, if this to me feels like it should be an analog of somebody coming to, I don't know, my mountain, to the town where I have a home in the mountains, hearing the bells ringing at a bunch of times during the day, and then using those bells as a clue to what happened, why he missed a weekend. And I would not find that offensive. So I don't know if this Quran thing is similar to this muezzin thing. I don't know. Hopefully not. But that was in the past, and the past cannot be changed. The idea was what it was. I have since removed the muezzin audio, replacing it with a YouTube library audio. So that's fixed. That can be fixed. The idea that I had in 2016 cannot be fixed.